I'm Yvie Jones, and you're listening to Playing on Air. You're about to hear ECHO and Narcissus. Playwright Amanda Quaid, a winner of our 2019 James Stevenson Prize for The Clam, returns with another sprightly comedy. This one inspired by Greek mythology and a heaping dose of marital jealousy. ECHO and Narcissus is directed by Adrienne Campbell-Holt and stars Sarah Manton, Conn, and Mia Katigbak. We'll speak with the artist after Amanda's classically hilarious play.
My husband has a need for more in life. He likes to rabble-rouse and get his kicks. And as the king of gods who reigns above, that means he has his choice of other chicks. The question, it obsessed me day and night. Who'd caught my husband's ever-wandering eye? Some pretty little nymph was tempting Zeus. I had to know, and I had to know why. I wandered down from old Olympus, and observing all the girls, I noticed one who, for the love of gods, would not shut up. She gabbed, she prattled, she was never done.
I like to disagree with everyone. A good debate is at the very heart of friendship and a strong society. Besides, there's nothing wrong with being smart.
She kept distracting me, the little tart. In my day, girls were seen, not heard. And as she babbled, gabbled, blathered on, I wondered if she was what Zeus preferred. I studied her, this strong-willed chatterbox. Her name was Echo. And right then and there, while she was in mid-sentence, yak, 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 I cursed her with a punishment so rare. Said, "You will never use your tongue again, except to say what was just said to you. Condemned to repetition, parroting, nothing original, no point of view." The plus side, this I told her afterwards, and through her tears I do believe she heard. Though you've no power to express a thought, you'll always, always have the final word. She cried, lamented, pleaded silently. Without her words, she mimed, she'd rather die. "You still can talk," I told her.
Still can talk?
But only to repeat. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, bye-bye.
And off she went to cry. I saw the fruits of my voodoo play out that afternoon when Echo in love fell with one Narcissus, a most handsome youth. Think, gorgeous smile, white teeth, a sexy smell. She pined for him, I knew. I'd been there once. She followed him around and tried to seize just one iota of his notice, but she couldn't speak. She couldn't even wheeze, and I was pleased. And then one day she had a chance. For lo, there she was, hiding, watching him a while. He, looking for his friends, called out.
"Hello? Is anybody here?"
Here.
For she could only echo back a shred.
"Who's that? A friend? Well, where are you? Come out."
Come out.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Oh, hi. Hello. Excuse me, who are you? We haven't met before around these parts. You new in town? Or tell me something. What?
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 No, I'm asking you.
I'm asking you.
I see, you're one of those. A little shy. I get it. That's not strange. In fact, if I can speak in total truth, I like a girl who listens for a change.
Who listens for a change?
Wow, you get me. So tell me all about yourself, my dear. Your preferences, your likes and dislikes, please. Like, what's your favorite play? Me? Mine's King Lear.
Me? Mine's King Lear.
Oh, now get out of here. You're pulling my leg, speaking in haste. Or could it be that it's entirely true?
Entirely true.
I love a girl with taste. And French films, New Wave cinema, I'll bet. Are you familiar with Jean-Luc Godard? The Soviets, Tarkovsky, Eisenstein? I must confess, j'adore the avant-garde.
The avant-garde.
Yes, most girls never know who I'm referencing. They'd rather watch Real Housewives of Atlantis, all that trash. But you like to kick it up a notch. Well, how about politics? Who gets your vote? And wait, before you get contrarian, I know it's touchy, no one can agree, but me? I side with libertarian.
With libertarian?
Free-thinking girl, at last. A chick who knows her own damn mind. I could have sworn you voted otherwise, and that'd be fine. I would have been resigned. But you take the road less traveled, right? That's Robert Frost, in case you didn't know. You probably did, but sometimes I've been told my references can be too lofty, so... You read. I bet you even read for fun. Yeah, I can see all that just in your eyes. This might be weird to ask, because we just met, but are you dating other guys?
Oh, other guys?
I know, right? Other guys. It's like, what other guys? Most guys are lame. Emasculated, all pent up, stressed out, and let's be honest, in the bedroom, tame.
Tame?
Yeah, most guys are scared to be a man, to take control and let a woman take the things we know a woman really wants. You want to walk with me beside the lake?
The lake?
You know the one I mean, I think. The big, wide, deep, immense reflecting pond. Girls always want to go there with me, but I've never had with anyone this bond.
This bond?
You feel it too. And in your eyes, I see myself. I like the self I see. This is the best date I've ever had. I feel like I get you, and you get me.
You get me?
Girl, you can say that again. So how about we take a little jaunt? Walk hand in hand, or more, around the lake, and we can do, anything you want.
Oh, anything you want.
Okay. I'll call the shots then, if that's cool with you. But warning, I move fast, so just, be sure to tell me if I misconstrue.
She wasn't sure she liked him anymore, but something made her follow him that night. In spite of his plain self-absorbedness, she didn't want to seem too impolite. She didn't have the skill, much less the words, to turn around and leave him all alone. Besides, she'd instigated this whole thing. And what's the harm of one half-hearted fling?
I love it here. It's so peaceful and so dark.
He cast his eyes into the pools of hers.
I really want to kiss you now, okay?
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
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 And as he brought his lips in close to hers, his eye alighted on the lake behind. His own reflection gazing back at him sent pins and needles up and down his spine. He'd never seen himself in quite this way. The angle of his chin, his shadowed brow, the curly locks encircling his ear. She caught him looking. He said,
Anyhow, where were we?
And he searched her face again for his reflection, something he could hook to make him see himself in this young girl.
Well, maybe I'll just take one closer look.
He left her standing, knelt beside the lake. The moonlight made a slant across his cheek. His chiseled jawline drew him closer still.
I never dreamed I had this fine physique. It's ancient Greek and strikingly unique.
Then he was nose to nose with this himself. Echo looked on, but dared not break his spell. So hideous, the way he preened and smirked. He leaned in closer, then in he fell. He shrieked aloud, but water stopped his mouth, and down he sank. She watched him disappear. First feet, then arms, then sculpted cheekbones last.
Farewell.
He heard him burble from the deep.
My dear!
And Echo stood there, mouth agape in awe. No one to talk to, no one she could tell, left only to repeat his final words.
Farewell, my dear, my dear, my dear, farewell.
And grief welled up inside her, not for him exactly, but for all humanity, all lover wannabes who can't connect. So dazzled are they by their vanity. She pitied him, and pity made her sad. She walked all night, avoiding everyone.
Even the moon herself,
She thought.
is just a desperate reflection of the sun.
She wondered then.
Can selfless love exist? Or is love but a mirror that we crave?
When daylight began to break across the sky, she hunkered down alone inside a cave. And there she wasted her remaining days until her body faded, her skin thinned. All that was left of little Echo then was a faint voice, that carried in the wind.
You've just heard Echo and Narcissus, written by Amanda Quaid and directed by Adrienne Campbell-Holt. It starred Sarah Manton as Echo, Christian Conn as Narcissus, and Mia Katigbak as Hera.
I'm Claudia Catania, the founder of Playing on Air, here today with our executive director, Yvie Jones, and the playwright, director, and cast of Echo and Narcissus. Amanda, your play Echo and Narcissus is based on the myth Echo and Narcissus. Why did you choose to revisit this particular myth at this particular time?
I wrote it in 2018 for the Red Bull Short New Play Festival, and the prompt was, I think, the language of love. And you could write a play based on a myth or using classical language, and I thought I'll do all of those things. I was really interested in the constraint of writing a verse play where one person could only echo back the last few lines of the other person's dialogue. And that's how it took shape, was giving myself that impediment.
Adrienne, what was your first take on this piece when you read it?
I was really charmed by the contemporariness of the relationships, and I loved the humor of it and the satire of it and the criticism of, or the sort of subtle way in which Amanda has made us think about gender dynamics in relationships, especially when there is, in this case, Echo and a young woman who does not have her own voice, and yet the male Narcissus is perceiving her independent spirit, despite, of course, that not being accurate.
Obsessive self-love, unrequited love, despair, revenge were originally the tragic elements of the story of Hera, Echo, and Narcissus. Amanda, can you talk about revisiting this story as a comedy?
Yeah, for me, the comedy comes in the wordplay and the rhyming and enjoying Narcissus's self-love. I mean, that was the really, really fun thing to write. I find rhyming to be so joyful and so playful that you can really write about anything. You can go as dark as you want to go, and if it rhymes, it's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. Christian, who played Narcissus, if you were teaching a class about performing dramatic poetry,
oh dear,
what would you say about approaching the poetry in Amanda's play compared to how you'd approach verse writers like Shakespeare, Moliere, the ancients, and such?
Well, first I want to compliment Amanda on the word narcissuses, which she said earlier. I got very nervous as she went for the possessive of that word and nailed it. Amanda has just a great talent for, the rhyming feels pretty effortless. Oftentimes rhyming is such I've never attempted it, but I would imagine an incredibly difficult thing to do, to write it and make it feel accessible, and it feels contemporary as well. That's one thing that I noticed about this was, you might treat certain translations of Moliere a certain way, and I think you would treat this a little more like people talking. It feels like people talking. So it also just has lots of really delicious little footholds for actors, and the characters are really well drawn, and so, it's exciting to work on.
Sarah?
I would say I would approach it similarly in that it comes from truth and from being a human. Amanda's brilliant writing is so true to life and vibrant. I think that's the most important thing. There's obviously a rhythm to it, but I wouldn't get too caught up in that because it's just there and it's the way we speak.
Adrienne, were you directing this piece for the stage as opposed to audio? What might first pop into your head in terms of staging, light sets, costumes, or props?
So for some reason, the sort of container that's coming to mind, it's making me think about that Mary Zimmerman production of Metamorphoses, which I did not actually have the pleasure of seeing, but I looked at many photographs of. I wasn't yet in New York when that show was happening, but I was so enamored of both the simplicity and the playfulness and the kind of childlike wonder of that design while also really having an elegance to it. And the way that Amanda's play feels both like a playful romp and like a very important work has, makes me think about like a watering, I believe there was like a reflecting pool in that piece that actors were stomping around in. And so something that feels pristine and elegant at first that is then turned upside down a bit. Feels exciting.
Sounds great. Mia, you co-founded an off-Broadway company called Natco.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Natco stands for National Asian American Theater Company. It was co-founded, 2 actors actually founded it because nobody would cast us. So back then, it's like 32 years old now. The founding repertory was to do European and American classics with all Asian American casts without setting them in Asia. Not because that's bad, but will you do Macbeth in Japanese? No. We added more programs as the years went by so that it's adaptations of the classics by Asian American playwrights, and there's a cool one that we do which is non-Asian playwrights, no Asian characters, but an all Asian American cast will realize it. It's all to give us more opportunities, basically.
Yeah. Do you think that as people grow more open-minded in casting that your mission will become
obsolete? Wouldn't that be nice?
Well, here's to that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it feels like it's like an ongoing thing because I think people feel like, oh yeah, we're doing our job now, and then it kind of slides back. Yeah, it's hard to change.
Yeah,
centuries old stuff.
Amanda, when you wrote this, were you at all thinking about today's social media often being kind of sweeping repetitions like echoes on steroids?
No, I wasn't thinking about social media and echoing, but it was the height of Me Too when I wrote it in 2018, and I think there was this cultural dialogue around these events in women's lives where they'd go on a date, go home with the guy consensually. It starts kind of going bad, but it's not an assault per se. But they don't feel they have the voice in the moment to stop it or make it what they want it to be, and the kind of letdown and confusion and disappointment of that. And that was a question I was really sitting with because it wasn't something I'd seen articulated kind of in the culture before. I think it's a pretty common experience, and I wouldn't say this play is a response to Me Too, but that was certainly in the air when I was writing it. So if there's anything contemporary I'm engaging with in this, it's probably that. Can you talk a little more about that in terms of Echo and in terms of Narcissus? Echo has this moment where she's not sure she even likes him anymore because she's not really having a great time on this date. He's pretending he seems to be perceiving her and seeing her, but he's only seeing a reflection of himself, and she of course feels invisible and powerless. So she's not sure she even wants to keep this up, but she feels A, voiceless, and B, also like she's initiated this whole thing, so why not just kind of see it through? It's easier to just see it through and go ahead with it than it is to stop it, especially when you only can repeat what the person has said to you.
It's such a scary thing, too, I think. Well, it's funny and scary when people can't see each other, when you see, someone thinks they're seeing someone. I mean, clearly listening is a big issue in this play, but it's such a scary thing to think about how sometimes you can just absolutely miss each other, in this case because someone is deeply flawed, but that's interesting.
And think you're seeing each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And how delusional we are in love, right? Like how
yes.
hopeful and how much of early love is just a projection,
You hear what you want to hear.
Completely.
Sometimes not only in early love, sometimes deep into it.
Yeah. I think too, I'm so interested in this kind of trope or theme and myth of a girl hitting puberty and losing the voice or having the voice taken away by an older woman. We see it also in The Little Mermaid. I know there are others, and I don't quite know what that means. As somebody raising a daughter, I don't really know what to make of that in a kind of obvious way. But I think there's real power in that as a metaphor. I relate to it on some level, even if I can't always articulate what that experience was in my own life. I know that it happened around that time.
But speaking of this kind of reflection and obviously a different kind of love, but when you, with children, especially when they're brand new and babies are obviously nonverbal and there's so much that's so unknown for so long, and you can, you are so close and you study them looking for clues. And I feel like that kind of openness that you approach a baby with is good kind of practice to approach all kinds of love.
One of the fun things about Narcissus is that he doesn't, like most of us, project his insecurities in love, because he's in love with himself and he's great. Mm-hmm. Christian, I was just wondering, what's there to like about this guy?
Oh, it's such a... I've been thinking about that since we started this conversation. And then it sort of changed when we started talking about Me Too, and I started thinking slightly differently about a few of his lines. I would say, well, let me say this first. I think whenever you're, exploring something as an actor, in a way you have to fall in love with the character, for lack of a better phrase. And one of the things that I always look for is the flaws in the character, because they're the things that make them human.
Yeah. And
I think that's where I usually start with a character, is what are the things that I see and he has obviously a glaring flaw, this self-love. And I find oftentimes that the flaws are the things that can become appealing in strange ways. I'll give you an example. I know people, in my community or there's just people where some people are like, oh, I really don't like that guy. Oftentimes I find that I will kind of like those people because I'm like, oh yeah, but they're just this super insecure, flawed person, and I am too, and I'm scared and anxious in social environments, and I talk too loud and too much sometimes, and I overshare, so I see those flaws in myself sometimes, and so I'll be able to appreciate those people sometimes in ways that I don't think other people are able to. So I guess I would just say his glaring flaw also makes him appealing because it makes him human. And I think he's the wonderful thing that Amanda has done here is it's fun. It's a fun play, and it's a fun idea. And so there's a charm to that as well.
It's called ECHO and Narcissus, but I couldn't stop thinking about Hera, because her character is just so incredibly powerful. But yet she just has a laser focus on Echo, who is not even canoodling with Zeus. And I thought the line where she says something like, back in her day, young girls knew their place. She spies on Echo. It's kind of like she follows her to make sure that her curse is carrying through. She wants to see this through to the end. And she's kind of providing that chorus and letting us know that, yeah, it all went terribly. And I just thought, and maybe I'm showing my age, but it feels like Hera's story in a way.
Yeah, and I don't know at the end, is she victorious, or is she regretful, or is she... a little bit sad. I mean, you can carry out a revenge fantasy and then it can play out in a way you don't expect, right?
Yeah.
But I am interested in this dynamic that works with romantic jealousy, of becoming kind of obsessively infatuated with the object that you're jealous of, and that's something I always try to write about as much as I can.
Thank you all. It's been delightful. We've been speaking with our executive director, Yvie Jones, playwright Amanda Quaid, director Adrienne Campbell-Holt, and the cast: Sarah Manton as Echo, Christian Conn as Narcissus, and Mia Katigbak as Hera, Queen of Mount Olympus.
You've been listening to Playing on Air, Great American Short Plays with Great American Actors. Our founder and producing artistic director is Claudia Catania. Theme and play music, Tom Kochan. Audio editing, Joanna Lynn Staub. Recording and sound design, John Kilgore. Playing on Air is distributed by PRX, Public Radio Exchange. Special thanks to the National Endowment for the Arts, New York State Council on the Arts, the Horace W. Goldsmith Foundation, and Josie Merck for their support, and to listeners like you. Thank you. For Playing on Air, I'm Executive Director Yvie Jones. Thanks for listening.